want the real story.
The real story?
The real story about how we met and what happened.
I don't think they can handle it.
You don't think they can handle it?
Not sure.
You know, Reed is a Texas name. My father was from Sherman. He was from Whitewright and Greenwood. And so my brother's middle name was Stark, and my other brother's middle name was G. And those are all Texas names. Reed, G, Stark, they're all Texas names. My grandmother went from Washington, D.C. to Texas in a covered wagon.
Oh, really?
So, on top of that, the number one goal in my mind was for PRS guitars to get accepted to the vintage market, and that's a Texas thing, that whole vintage market, right? The Dallas show and all that. So basically, here's the story. We're at the vintage show, and we've got the band there, Gary Granger and Greg and Michael Hall and Derek, and we're all going to play. And I need an amp. And Junior Clark comes into the booth, and he says, "You need an amp to play tonight." I said, "Yeah." He says, "I got a friend that builds these wonderful amplifiers." And I just love putting my gig bag over my shoulder and going to booths and trying amplifiers. Always have. Probably pretty disappointing for most of the people that are going to try the amps for, but fun for me anyway. And so we go there, but what's interesting, I think I'm going to walk all the way across the hall, and the booth is literally behind the curtain on the other side of our booth, right? Doug and I didn't even say hello. We were inside one of his amps modifying an amp within, what, 3 minutes? It was
just immediately.
Immediately, and it's been that way ever since inside amps. Last night, I was working on an amp. I was working on this amp. And it's just the way that it is.
Well, just to speak to that a little, I've been in the design business, you know, my whole professional career in one form or another. And it's easy to design things on your own. It's harder to design as a team. Lennon and McCartney, you know, that kind of a thing. And when you find somebody that you can work with easily and that personalities mesh and people, you know, you can cherry pick good ideas between the two. You always come up with a stronger design. And I've worked with people that I could not do that with. It's a kind of a magical and a very rare thing. And just within 3 minutes, him coming over to the booth, they said, "This is somebody I can work with. It would be very cool if I could." You know? And so, just on the side, we were shipping amps back and forth for years after that.
What's interesting is that we would set the cell phone on my workbench and put it on speakerphone, and we could hear the difference, that we were making in the circuits right on the cell phone, which was fascinating. It was like, he says, "I can hear that." I said, "On a cell phone that ends at 4K."
Well, half the time we had the same amp, working on the same exact amp and doing the same things to it.
On both sides of the phone.
2,000 miles away or whatever the heck it is. And pretty amazing stuff.
For everybody's benefit, Doug was making amps for a lot of the working musicians in Texas, and he had a huge amount of experience. What I knew about his amps were, 1, they sounded great. 2, musicians liked them. 3, they didn't break. And 4, people were willing to buy amps from him. A lot of guys, it's nice that they make amps, but nobody really wants to give them money because they just don't think they're worth the money. But what was fascinating to me is that he had all those qualities. And I don't know if you know this, but I used to modify Marshalls to pay the bills when I was a young man, and I didn't understand about power supplies. I didn't really understand that much about the voltage dividers, where the driver tubes or something.
Yeah, phase inverters.
I didn't understand. See, obviously, I didn't understand any of the names, right? But I did understand about the preamps. I did understand about how the circuits worked. I could draw the circuits out from memory. There was a lot of things I didn't know, but in a way, in order to get to the point that we've gotten here with the Sewell PRS amps, I'm a little bit of a cripple because there's a lot of the things that I don't understand, but there are a lot of pieces that I brought to the table. There are a lot of things that I was able to help Doug with. So it's been a really good relationship. When I'm in a lot of pain, I end up in the amp shop working with Doug because it's fun. Right. It's just fun.
So it's like Zen work sometimes for us. He'd call me up when I was in Texas and say, "Hey man, I had a bad day. We need to go work on some amps." And I said, "Man, I'm up for it." So that's true. So anyway, and it always would work out where we would just kind of build on each other's thoughts and ideas. And he found a mistake I made in a prototype I'm doing right here yesterday, and we just kind of two sets of eyes and two sets of minds, if they work well together, always end up with a better product. And
actually, this is a good example.
Yeah.
This is a prototype. Look how neatly prototypes don't look like that.
Wow.
This is gorgeous. We found the wrong part right here, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a bad treble cap.
Yeah. And you know, this is a prototype. This is not the finished product. The finished product's even cleaner. But one of the things, when you're making an amp, things have to be neat and clean. Otherwise, you're going to have a customer service problem. One day the amp's not going to work, and that's not cool.
Well, you're tricking yourself, or you're not being true to yourself if you don't try to do it the way it will end up eventually.
Do you have? Is this a Super Dallas here? Yeah, come on. This is one of Doug's amps, and
whose is this? Ted Nugent.
This is for Ted Nugent. So basically, the reason these parts are all different colors is because these brands and these values sounded better in those holes.
Right.
We've tried what? 10 different of this, just this one part, and 10 different of the same value, but different brand, different type of cap. I mean, you can use an electric lytic here. This is actually this one comes out of a crossover for audio, right? Some of the inexpensive parts make it sound more rock and roll. Some of the more expensive parts make it sound more sophisticated. But each part changes the tone. If you send the electric signal through all these parts, can you imagine that every one would affect the tone? And in the end, the idea is that what goes in here and what comes out of here sounds musical, and it takes a lot of time.
That's the bottom line. We're not as encumbered with silence. we are looking for the end results above all things. And sometimes including price. That's a real expensive cap there. This is not, or this one is medium, and this is not. So it's one of those things where what comes out of this hole is the only thing we worry about, really. So
we also want the knobs to sound good in any position. That's not fair. It's the only thing we worry about.
Well, you know, it's in other words, the end result of the way the thing reacts and works, including everything that's pushing it out of this hole, is what we're talking about. So. I
would have never thought that the final Super Dallas amp would have looked like this inside, but it's colorful.
Yeah.
It wasn't intended that way. It's just that part sounded best in that position, that part sounded best in that.
Yeah.
That's the story, and we're sticking with it. By the way, he moved here from Texas. Very dangerous thing when you take somebody out of their hometown. He's a Dallas Cowboys fan. He moved to Redskins territory. Not cool. All bad. Are you still a Dallas Cowboys fan?
I'm still a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I wouldn't change that since '63. You know,
you grew up on it.
Yeah, through Don Meredith and Bob Lilly, all the way to Tony Romo. Anyway,
that's the story, and it's true. And try an amp.
All good.
Thanks.